In the dedication to her 2010 book, Perseverance, Margaret Wheatley chose these words by Thomas Merton, Catholic monk, writer, and activist. Merton wrote, "I stand among you as one who offers a small message of hope. There are always people who dare to seek on the margins of society, who are not dependent on social acceptance, not dependent on social routine, and prefer a kind of free-floating existence under a state of risk." In this, she is inviting us to entertain or adopt an attitude that will allow us to build better community or build community better. To be in real relationship with one another, in our closer personal and more intimate relationships, as well as our encounters with strangers and friends. Margaret, or Meg Wheatley, is a writer, teacher, community worker, consultant, speaker, and advisor. Acting in these many roles since the mid-1960s, she remains convinced that even now, in the face of so many challenging situations, that all of us, those who lead and those who follow, must learn how to tap into and use our inherent generosity, creativity, and our very real need for community to bring about the change we need, to repair the broken web, to build the world we dream about. Perseverance is an essential virtue, is essential to our thriving in these often difficult days, as we tamp down what fears we may have and search for that courage and positivity that will get us through. Any awakened and engaged response to the world and our condition, in other words, all conscious action, is motivated and fueled by hope. And it is driven by perseverance. Perseverance is the impetus behind all the strategic plans. It is all the resources of strength and power and love we can muster. Perseverance is an affirmation of our humanity. It is a refusal to merely react and asks us to engage with life, even when it is difficult or may seem impossible. I want to share with you something Wheatley wrote in a brief essay called Edge Walking. People who persevere, she says, walk the undulating edge between hope and fear, success and failure, praise and blame, love and anger. This difficult path often feels razor sharp and dangerous, and it is. Scientists call it the edge of chaos. It is the border created by the meeting of two opposing states. Neither state is desirable. In fact, each must be avoided, no matter how enticing or familiar it appears. Possibility only lives on the edge. Security is not what creates life. Safety, safe havens, guarantees of security, none of these give life its capacities. Newness, creativity, imagination, these live on the edge. So does presence. I wondered at her statement that neither of those states is desirable. Hope, success, praise, love, what's wrong with living in those states? The more I thought about it, I figure she's telling us that if we want to also increase creativity and possibility and make a new vision come alive, that we can't just hunker down where we are comfortable. We need to venture out to the edge where those opposing conditions meet. Hope and fear, success and blame, praise, success and failure, praise and blame, love and anger. We have to walk that undulating edge. And the only way to do so is with presence. Being present, bringing our whole selves into everything we do, not relying on autopilot or phoning it in, as tempting as that may be at times. Presence is the only way to walk the edge of chaos. This is perseverance. Wheatley tells us that we have to be as nimble and awake as high wire artists, sensitive to the slightest shift of wind, circumstances, emotions. We may find this high wire exhausting at first, but there comes a time when we rejoice in our skillfulness. We learn to know this edge, to keep our balance, and even dance at incalculable heights. Walking this edge, she says, never stops being dangerous. At any moment when we're tired, overwhelmed, fed up, sick, as we have been, we can forget where we are and get ourselves in trouble. We can lapse into despair or anger, or we can get so caught up in our own enthusiasms and passions that we lose any sense of perspective or timing. And we can alienate friends and crash into an exhausted mess. There is the danger. But the edge is where life happens. So let's notice where we are and not lose our balance. Well, clearly, edge walking is not for the faint of heart. Perseverance, then, is choosing to be present and awake, knowing who we are, choosing how to live and what to fight for. And it is joining with others who will do the same. We do the good we can, not trying to fix the whole broken system, but find a part that we can change. Mend the piece we have, even if we know other parts are fraying. In the midst of all this work for change, in this walking on the edge, we need to keep our core strong to center ourselves. And that could be through meditation or prayer or exercise, or getting out into the beauty of nature if we can, or daily mindfulness practices, finding time for creating art, making music, maybe even dance and sing. Or to observe and take in some bit of senseless beauty, whatever it is, wherever we may find it, looking at created artworks done by others, listening to music, whatever kind we like or love, or even something new. We all need to balance ourselves if we are going to do any of this edge walking, to find a perspective that lets us go there. We need to see beyond the frustrations that are right in front of our eyes, those things that we are always paying attention to, the failures big and small that have dented our optimism. Look beyond the growing edge and persevere. Dare to go to that edge. Now, we do not do this and slog along blindly. We are blessed with awareness and attention. We can dare to look and see the life that is before us. We cannot have or experience hope, nor can you inspire hope in others if you cannot go the distance, if you cannot hang in there when the going is rough or unsure. And this doesn't mean always being out front and always being the great cheerleader, but hanging in there can just be remaining in solidarity, remaining in support of others. We have a choice. When everything is not exactly to our liking, if it hasn't worked out the way you expected or planned, you have a choice. You can shrug your shoulders, dust off your hands, and walk away, or you can persevere. Now, to persevere is not just to bully ahead with a myopic or intransigent agenda. It's more than just doggedness. As a spiritual and moral practice, perseverance is coupled with self-awareness, where humility allows us to check our perceptions, to check in with ourselves to see if indeed we are on the right path, changing and adjusting in creative ways as we go, with that growing edge in sight, keeping our balance, encountering and engaging the fullness of life at the edge of chaos. This is that extra breath, the one more thing to try before giving up. It is our choice and our chance to persevere in the face of so many challenges, to hang in there and not give up. Sometimes this can take every ounce of energy we have made, perhaps we have stored up in our resources. And even then, all our hopes and plans may come to naught. Then what? Our saving grace is perseverance's partner, resilience. Resilience is the ability to work with diverse adversity so that we come through it unharmed, or even better for the experience. Not totally free of scrapes or scars, but still essentially whole in mind and spirit. Resilience comes from deep within each of us. It is nurtured and honed as we move through life. With a clear sense of identity and purpose at our core, when we truly love ourselves, our imperfect, vulnerable, beautiful selves, we are most resilient. Much of our resilience comes from community too, from the relationships we build with one another, friends, family, co-workers, neighbors. These communities that we create and sustain, these relationships where we can lean on each other for support when we need it, and encouragement, and get advice and receive feedback and loving care, these are essential for us to persevere. Now, to be resilient is not to be toughened up or thick-skinned or inured to pain. This is not a Nietzschean, what does not kill me makes me strong kind of attitude. Rather, it is more like a kind of softening. It's like the opposite of that. It's the ability to keep going despite disappointments, because we know or we believe that our actions in themselves are generating hope, and most importantly, love. Resilience is the practice of mindfulness and compassion every day, not just when you're sitting in meditation. It is a selfless act and self-strengthening, a true tendering of the heart. There's another reading from Howard Thurman that I've kept in my resource archives for I don't know how many years, and it's called I Will Not Give Up. He writes about trees above a timberline, where the forest opens up onto what seems like barrenness, sheer rocks, snow patches, and strong, untrammeled winds. Here and there were short tufts of evergreen bushes that had somehow managed to survive. They were not lush, and they lacked the kind of grace of the vegetation that was below the timberline, but they were alive and clearly hardy. These were no ordinary shrubs. Hugging the ground, following the shape of the terrain, were trees that could not grow upright. They were growing as vines along the earth. And what seemed to be patches of stunted shrubs were rows of branches growing, developing trees. Thurman wondered at what must have been the torturous frustration and the stubborn battle that had finally resulted in that strange phenomenon. He saw in it living examples of perseverance and resilience, as if the tree experienced that its destiny was to take root and grow up to the sky, embracing the wind and the rain and the snow and the sun, but being where it was, rooted beyond the timberline. He imagined the tree couldn't do that, but it did not want to die. So this tree to be makes a careful survey of its situation. It instinctively worked out a method, a way of life that would yield growth and development, despite the conditions under which it found itself. It won't look like the trees in the forest, but it will be all that it was meant to be. The tree will not give up. Thurman's takeaway is a wondering. I wonder, he wrote, if I dare to act as the tree acts. I wonder. I wonder. Do you? This indeed is a spiritual practice for our times, to harbor hope in the face of discouragement, to not give up, to persevere even when our energies are tasked, or there's no sure sign of success, or the way is unclear. And then to be resilient in the face of life's difficulties or failure. There's a tenacity of spirit we sense in these moments, to embrace all that makes life worth living, even in the face of overwhelming odds, and to remember, perhaps most importantly, that we are not alone, that we are loved, that we have said yes to life and yes to love. Our closing hymn blesses us on this continuing journey together. It's also from the great hymnal number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath, again brought to us with beauty and grace by Gerald Brown.